This is one of my 5 specimens of the African Jacaranda. It's a really interesting tree, and I've learned a lot of things over the years with this particular species. This one, although you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at it, is approximately 8 years old, and it is still relatively small. And that's because I've experimented and tried different things, but the biggest detriment to its growth is I've kept it in a small pot for a long period of time. This one I tried to kind of make into a bonsai specimen, and I would recommend against using this particular species for any kind of bonsai work, especially in Canada. It just doesn't get enough light, the leaves are too big, and the internodes are really long. It gets rangy, and unless something changes over the next few years, I can't see this becoming a really great specimen. What I would recommend is if you have it in a yard or a courtyard where it's protected and it can survive the cold, it would make a nice species, although it's extremely messy. It drops leaves in the winter and it leaves quite a big mess. So it is a fun tree. They're tough, and what I've liked about them is they've kind of survived all of the mistakes I've made over the years. I've cut them back, I've root pruned them, I've hard pruned the foliage, and they've all seemed to survive with no losses in life. I've also been able to propagate these from cuttings, which is pretty helpful as well, and it gives you a couple of extra stock samples to experiment with. Now this one, it's the middle of the winter, so you can tell it doesn't look great. You can see the leaves are kind of droopy, and you've got some dieback, which is totally normal. Also during the winter time, not so much in the summer, they get a bit of aphid pressure when the tree is supposed to be dropping its leaves. Now they are deciduous, and that kind of coincides with the natural environment where it gets colder and they get a lot less water. One of the things that I've done with all of these species, all of my specimens I should say, is that I haven't really let them go into true dormancy, which is probably part of the problem. In theory, if you reduce the light and you reduce the watering and you let them completely dry out or come close to it, you have a greater chance of having those trademark purple blooms. And that's really what I'm looking for. I think that would make all the work around this troublesome tree worthwhile if I can get it to bloom. So this one, along with the others, I'm going to limit water. It's January now, so I'm going to limit water as much as I can. I'm going to put it into natural light conditions, which is relatively little light in this environment, and see if I can get some blooms. Now I will do some light pruning, but generally speaking, I think one of the biggest mistakes I had, I didn't develop strong enough roots for the specimens I have. There is one that I allowed to grow in a larger grow pot, and it grew, I'd say, about 10 feet in the time that I've had it. And it's the same age as this one here. This tree has some interesting things as well. It gets kind of like a cell burst. I did some research a long time ago where you'll see the stems of the leaves get this like crystal-like substance. It's not scale, and it's not terribly damaging to the tree, just depending on time of year. But then when the growing season starts, that kind of all resolves, and it doesn't seem to have any impact on the tree. But this one, it's got a decent shape. I've done some wiring here over time. The difficulty is getting those primary branches to branch out, and that's maybe what I'm going to try for this one next year. I'm going to ease up on the pruning a little bit, allow the branches to grow thicker and longer, then I'll start cutting back. Because this one, like I said, the ramification, it's a struggle. It's got these long rangy branches that don't look particularly attractive, and I wanted to see if I can start working on the root base and make this a more impressive specimen over time. But yeah, I've learned a lot from this tree. I like it. Like I said, the main goal here is let's see if I can get this guy to bloom. I will probably post an update in the spring. I'm going to see if I can get it into dormancy, and then hopefully we'll see some action in the next 3 months or so.